thank you for agreeing to meet with us and our docents, the people that will be going into schools and into different clubs and museums to talk about the Violence Project. And they're all very excited to have the opportunity to talk with you and learn a little bit more about how you came upon this project and how you envision it going forward. And one of the questions we have for you, but first we'd like to just thank you for giving us the opportunity to bring the violins to Fort Wayne in November. We have many, many events planned around the violins coming. We promise you that we will be keeping your son very busy while he's here. But we'll also take...
Yeah, he's used to it.
Yeah, I know he is. He said he likes to be busy.
And he's coming tomorrow night to Israel. And the next morning we are going to Cremona, Italy. I'm getting there a prize for all what I've done. We stay there 3 days, coming back to Tel Aviv, and then he's preparing everything to go to you. So we are very hectic, we can say, and no problem. We like it.
He'll be going to Louisville, which is in Kentucky, and then be coming into Indiana. So we were wondering...
I have no idea about all these trips because the ways that we have to do is so long that I'm trying not to put it in my memory. Yeah.
Would you be able to tell us a little bit about some of the current projects that you're working on related to violins and code?
Today, I'm really working on one of the nicest violins that we have here. It's called the Transport violin. My son actually got it in the States from the lady who was a kid in the time, and they put her on the train to go to England. And she was a violin player, and she took her violin with her, and she gave it. And I'm now, you can say, finishing the work on it, and I hope that it will be playable. And then after it will come back to Israel, I will finish all the work.
How old is that violin, do you think?
This violin is a very old one and a very good one. It is what we are calling in a professional way 7/8. It's not full size and not a small size. It's 7/8. So she played on it before to go to the full size violin, and then the war came over, and I don't know if she continued to play or not, but she donated this violin to us, and it was a very long operation. Sorry, I have to answer the phone. It's my wife, so 1 minute. Just again. אין אנשים בשאלות. She wants to know if we are just talking or not.
Well, make sure you tell her hello for us. So one of the questions that came is, do you play the violin? And if so, are you classically trained in playing the violin?
When I was young, I played the violin, I played the viola, I played the trumpet, and also guitar, but I don't do it anymore because I'm left-handed, and you cannot play and work together because of problems with your hands. So unfortunately, I cannot play anymore. There are other violin makers that are not left-handed, they can do it.
Thank you very much. So when you started this project, you might have had a vision for how you sell violins or coat. Has that changed over the years? And if it has, could you tell us a little bit about how so?
It's difficult to hear you.
David, you might...
Can you repeat the question? Yeah.
the question was, you had a vision for the project when you began. How has that vision changed as you developed the project over quite a few years? How have your goals changed, for example?
I will tell you something. When we began with this project, it was very, very little one. And if 20 years ago somebody should tell me what will happen with this project today, I should send him immediately to a doctor. Because we didn't believe that it will arrive to this level. That, as I'm saying to everyone, if in 1 week we are not getting a new invitation for a new project, I'm taking the computer to repair. So you can imagine how many calls we have, and you have to call. My son is going all over the States, I think, to give lectures. We will come to San Francisco. Because anyway, like 1 month ago, I've done 80. 80 from Israel to the States every time. So we are taking I'm not taking every trip. That's my son is doing it.
What has surprised you most as you developed the project in terms of acquiring violins or the stories of violins or things that you just didn't expect to happen?
Wow, that's a question. Look, I'm in the world of music from the first days that I was born, because my father was a violin player, and my mother was a piano player, and later on he changed to a violin maker, and all the times there was music in our house. For me, the first time when I got a violin, and this violin was before the project, and the story was in Auschwitz. The men played on the road to the gas chamber. And he told me many, many, many things. He didn't want to touch the violin anymore to play on it, but he had a grandson that he wanted that he will play. And he asked me to repair the violin, and from him I learned a lot, but still I didn't want to touch the subject. You have to understand, if you have not seen it, I'm coming from a family that we were something around 380 people. You know, in Poland and Russia and all these places, Jewish family were huge. 11, 12, 18 children. And from all this family, this is all 380 or 400, only 3 people survived. My mother, my father, and 1 brother of my father. And for me to touch the Holocaust issue was very, very complicated. I have to tell you what I'm telling every time. After the war, I was about 7, 8, 9, we can say. Our house was one of the first step to people who were from Vilnius, who survived and came to Israel. And in our house, they got the first time normal meat, normal meal, and a place to sleep some days or some weeks, depending what they need. And for me, this is a memory that I will have all my life. Because first of all, they were crying at night. And second of all, every morning when my mother was arranging the rooms, we have a guest room especially for that, we found bread under the pillows. They used to have this kind of, to keep something for the next day. They didn't know that we have everything. And I've had some good years, I can say, of my youth together with survivors. Another story that I have to say that you will understand what was in Israel in this time. When I went to school, elementary school, the first, second, and third class, the only boy that has a grandmother, grandfather, uncles, and everyone was a young boy. His name was Sharabi. Then you understand he was Yemenite. And there was no Holocaust. So sometimes I do remember what I don't want to remember, I'm calling it, that he was bringing somebody from his family, some uncle or some grandfather or grandmother, to us to see what it is. And when I asked my mother, where is my family? She used to take out the book about Vilnius and to show me the horrible photos, how they were killing the Jewish people, and said, here is your family. And to grow like that, when you're coming a young man, it was affecting me all the time until I don't know when. I never have done research. But for example, now I'm going to Cremona in 2 days. And in the school of Cremona, I was about 62, something like that. We've been 5 students there. This was the first time that I was in Europe. Of course, it's 1961. And one day came over a German school of violin making from Germany, from Mittenwald, to visit our school. I could not bear it to see any German, and I went out from the school. And they asked my teacher, who is working on this bench? It was empty. So he said, the man was going to watch the sun. Not important that many years, one of these students was my girlfriend. But for us, for the Israeli, it was very difficult to accept what happened in the Holocaust. It was very difficult to understand how comes that we lost about 6 million people. And when we are doing this project, our motto is, it's difficult and impossible to speak about the Holocaust and to say 6 million people died, was killed, murdered. It's the noise I might say. But when we are talking about violins, you are taking one violin and you're telling the story of this violin, and you know that behind this violin was one man. Most of them stayed alive. Germany needs them. So in this case, it's easier to understand the Holocaust.
One of the things, I apologize for the noise, we've got a preschool here next door. We're doing a lot of work in schools, making presentations to high school students. What would be some things that we should really talk about when we're talking with high school kids?
Look, that's the work of my son. Last time, when we were in around Alabama and Nashville and all these cities, he spoke to 26,000 students. And what usually, as I told you, he's talking about the connection of the violin and what the violin was, the meaning of these violins in the time of the Holocaust. Because for us, with all our knowledge, when they played the violin, they thought about not the concentration camp, but about concert hall. And every time that they held the violin, it was another day. For 5 minutes, they were not in the camp. They were out. And in many diaries that you read, a concert is violin or piano, mostly it was violins, because a piano to schlep, it is impossible then. People, for them, it was the highlight of the day, because then there was no, I will say, all this humiliation and all this killing and all these bad things that were in the Holocaust. So the violin was saving them. And when we were talking with people who played, everybody said always, you have no idea the effect of violin sound on those poor people. Because don't forget, the Nazis didn't let the Jewish people to pray when they were going to the gas chamber, because they didn't tell them that this is just the chamber. But the violin prayed for those people. To these people, that this was the last walking, we can say. And instead to hear the horrible voices of the Nazis, they heard a violin. Because on the way to the gas chamber in Auschwitz, this I know, there were standing people and playing violin. And this was to cheat the Jewish people, because the Jewish people believed in the violin. And if they've seen somebody playing the violin in front of the most horrible place in the world, he said, if violin playing is here, nothing can happen. So they were using the violin to cheat the Jewish people. And sometimes this man told me by knowing it. The man was playing the violin, then he had seen his family going to the gas chamber. He left the violin aside and he was walking with them. He knew the end of this trip. And on the other hand, we know stories about partisan boy that he was saving Jewish people and was playing the violin for the Nazis and then putting bomb in the place that he was playing for them. Or sometimes even nice stories, you can say, like that, yeah. I know about 2 or 3 like that, that a Jewish man came to the place they were killing the Jewish people and had a violin case. So the Gestapo officer asked him, what do you have there? The man said, a violin. He asked him, do you know to play the violin? Of course. Play the Tchaikovsky concerto. He said yes, and he played. So the officer in this case told him, put the violin in your case and run away, saving his life. That's another point of view. I have no idea until today to tell you how important was a violin there. We are violin makers. We can ask many questions, but we are not research people. We know about the resin. There were music life like, what we can say, outstanding. My city, my parents' city, because I was born in Israel, don't forget it, Vilna. Vilna, first of all, is famous for one of the greatest violin player in the world, Yasha Chepetz. He's coming from Vilna. And in Vilna, they played concerts, and they give lectures, and they done everything not to be 24 hours in the Holocaust, but to try to be 1 hour, 15 minutes, 10 minutes outside in a concert hall. And this is the important role of the violin, to give the people another chance, that they will have another aspect. And not important with whom I was talking, every time I got the same feelings, the same talking, that you cannot understand what the sound of the violin in a concentration camp have done to us. Survivors, yeah, in this case. Today, we are trying to give an answer to every place that's asking us to come and to play. And this is my son is doing it. because we know the importance of this little instrument. You know, don't forget, violin is 250 grams of wood that can play we played in America in a hall of 1,800 people, 2,500 people. This instrument here, I have and one of the violin from this collection, with the Star of David. But you know, this is nothing, this instrument. And the power that he has, it's unbelievable. And I hope that we can arrive to as many people as we can. And that's why we are doing it. We began with 1 or 2 violins. Today the collection is 80 violins, violoncellos. And for example, people will ask about the violin with Star of David. There have been violin with the Star of David in the camps, in the ghettos, of course, because the Jewish people played on it, the klezmers, the people who like to play on Friday night. Many houses in Eastern Europe, violin like this was hanged on the wall. If you know Yud Lamed Peretz, a great author, he wrote that if you want to know how many Jewish children or men are in a Jewish family, you have to count the musical instrument hanged on the wall. And I don't know what to say. They've done, for example, Vilnius. This is the city of my parents, as I said. They've had concerts almost every possibility to have it. And there have been people that played there every time. There have been, for example, brother and sister, Rabinovich, what can be more Jewish than that, who played in all the concerts, and super violinist. I'm sure 100% that if my father was alive, I could ask him, and he could tell me about this Rabinovich, because it's the same age. Only my father left Vilna in 38, and this guy, poor guy, stayed in Vilnius. Terezin, this is one of the stories that until today we don't understand. You cannot understand how possible was there to play, to have chamber music, to write music. They played symphonies, and the most important musical piece that I played there, it was the Requiem of Verdi, one of the most beautiful pieces ever written, and it is orchestra, chorus, and soloist. Can you imagine that in a concentration camp to do something like that? They have done some repeating of these things in United States, I know, and I tried once to do the same in Israel, but I could not. It's very complicated to do it. And in Theresienstadt, you can find out they wrote 2 operas, Grundivar and The King of Atlantis. And Grundivar, it was a children opera. And a boy, a man, after, we can say, that we have been together since 14, and military service, and I don't know how many years. He never told us that he was one of the singers in this Grundivar. And he was a super cellist. So, you know, we go a little bit to say what this project is doing. One of the most important concerts that we have had, I think, about 30 or 40 concerts all over the world, was in Berlin with the Berliner Philharmoniker, and the man that was responsible for it, it is the president of Germany today, Steinmeier. And we played there. After the concert, people told us that they were questioning for 10,000 tickets that they could not give because the hall was 1,400 people. And the people who played it, they were not only Germans, they've been from all the world. You know, everywhere when we are getting back the instrument after the concert, you can see that the eyes are wet. In German, not only they were wet, but they could not give back the violins. They kept it like, who knows, like it's their children. And it was very, very, very touching. And everywhere that we are going and playing, it is the same. But Germany is something else. You know, sometimes we are getting stories that we cannot even participate them with you because it is such a little thing that you have to know all the story. But for example, here, where I'm sitting now in the workshop, on this chair, was sitting before 6 weeks, a guy from France, that his father was a policeman in France, and he saved Jewish people in 2 ways. First of all, he gave them papers, and then second of all, he was faking papers with all these timbers, because he couldn't have it. And he was sitting here, and he was telling that, for example, in his house, there have been always survivors hiding there. And it was a problem for these people. They could not stay all the day closed. So what you have done, this guy, the father? At night, he was taking a coat with the Star of David here, put it on the Jewish survivors, put some kind of, how you call it, I don't know in English, the things that the Polish people are putting on their hands, to some of them, and was taking them around all the city. And people asked him, what are you doing? I'm going to bring him to the police. The police was his house in the end. So that's how they could have fresh air. This guy is, I forgot the name, how you are calling it, Yad Vashem is giving special certificate for people who save Jewish people, and they are not Jewish. He has it. And as he was talking about the people, sorry? Righteous.
Righteous.
Yeah. Yes. He was showing to us a photograph of 3 children, that 2 of them have been in his house. But later on, they wanted to go to their mother and unfortunately killed. I have here a book of Serge Klarfeld. He published a book about all the Jewish boys that were killed in the Holocaust. It's a book like that. And the guy has shown to us the pictures that he has in his collection, and then he stood up to go and to say hello to everybody, to be nice. And if the book, he knew about the book, but he'd never seen it. So he was looking a little bit in the book. You could not believe what happened. He arrived to the copy of the photo that was on our table some minutes ago. He was in a shock. He was beginning to tremble. Can you imagine something like that? He was a little boy, a youngster, and he has seen what's happening. And to see him seeing this photo, for me was something that I will never forget all my life. Sorry for 1 minute, I have to answer. Hello? Can't tell me. היום אני יכול עד 8. כן, בטח. אוקיי.
Amnon, we want to thank you very much for you taking the time to speak with us this morning and share these stories. We also want to just extend one last very warm welcome to you and your wife to come to Fort Wayne. You'll be happy to know we're having a very warm fall. It's very warm here. And we promise if you would like to do that, we would take very good care of you. But thank you very much.
I have to tell you also about my wife. Some of you have seen the movie Defiance with Daniel Craig, James Bond. You know the story?
Yes.
Three brothers.
Yes, yes.
One of the brothers, Asoel, is the father of my wife.
We are,
Sorry, I mean, hello,
This is so true.
Ken. זה מונח, אני רק פשוט מדבר עכשיו בסקייפ עם אמריקה, זה ישנו. כן, בהחלט. 20 דקות, חצי שעה. מצוין.
we're going to show the movie one night during that time, and then we're going to have a panel the next night, and Avshi is going to be on it. So we're very attuned to that, and we are very much looking forward to showing the movie to a general audience.
And then you can speak to Avshi. He is a grandson of this partisan, and to my wife.
Exactly.
Thank you, Amnon. We so appreciate you taking this time, and again, give warm wishes to your lovely wife for us, and we promise to take good care of your son while he's here.
Yes, I hope so.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.